Assalamu alaikum, you're listening to 93.5 Unity FM, Heart of the City. I'm Ibrahim Khan, and with me in the studio today, we have a very special guest. They are a qualified pharmacist for 20 years, which I can't believe, qualifying from Birmingham's very own, just up the road, Aston University. They also have a master's and worked in the field of pharmacy for 14 to 15 years as a community pharmacist. Worked in community health, working with school nurses, I beg your pardon, and dentists. Worked in practice as well with GPs. However, this all changed in 2016. And I'm going to stop there and leave all our listeners on tenterhooks. So, I'm going to say Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Shazia. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much. I really want to get to know you as an individual and kind of see where you're coming from. You know, get the complete picture. But like I said, I've kind of left our listeners on tenterhooks a little bit. So dare I ask, what happened in 2016, Shazia? Why don't you tell us?
To be honest, if I was giving you a real honest answer, I would say I don't really know. It was kind of unplanned. Maybe looking back, it was foolish. Also, maybe I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't make that decision. So years of kind of like working in different sort of roles in pharmacy, I absolutely loved them, to be honest. I mean, there was challenges in each role. I did most of the things I wanted to do, actually. I didn't get into a hospital pharmacy, which is the other kind of branch, and I didn't get into research. But apart from that, I kind of landed lots of jobs I actually wanted to actually do. So I felt very blessed, actually. Alhamdulillah, it was a good few years of opportunities and growth and meeting new people. I absolutely love the patient contact, so I missed that a lot when I left. I guess, without sounding ungrateful, I think I always felt there was something missing for me personally. Maybe I wanted to kind of really look at what I wanted in my life, really. So, it was kind of something I always hesitated with. And so 2016 came and I decided that was it. I jumped ship and I just took time out to rediscover myself. I just needed the space to kind of think. I think there's too much going on a personal level as well. So that didn't help. So I took some time away, cleared the kind of the space around me. I did some teaching for a while. So I apart from the fact that I lost my dad that year as well. So as well as being on a high, I was on a real low as well. But that was my kind of...
This was when you were in your final year of your GCSEs, is that right?
Yeah. Finally of my A-levels.
Final year of A-levels.
Yeah. I went to university.
Are you able to talk about it? Because, obviously it's a huge
I can
loss,
talk about it now. I guess it's something you have to face eventually. I can't say I ever got over it. It's something that I carry every day, but it's at the back of my mind. So... yeah, I was applying to university, actually. I was really excited, and my dad was very, very forward in education. He didn't have the opportunities to higher levels of education, nor did my mother, but they were very keen to see us kind of as a family, excel in education. So it was really embarrassing because Dad used to always be the first one there at parents' evenings. And I was like, please, Dad, give me a break. I can't deal with this. It was really, really embarrassing, but he loved to see us and kind of excel in that. So he was excited, I guess, to see me apply to university. So I think my parents always wanted me to stay local. They wanted me to go to Aston, and their requirements were quite big as well. Aston, you've got to get these grades if you want to come here. The death was quite unexpected. My dad was gone on the same day. We didn't get a chance to say goodbye, ask for forgiveness, or it was just kind of... I just remember going to school because my dad had a heart attack. They took him in, managed to revive him. My mom says, you go to school. So I remember flying all the way to school. My cousin turned up at the door. So my mom didn't get to see him either, which was really hard. So yeah, and it just happened so quick. And then that kind of changed things quite a lot because then I definitely didn't want to go away from home. So that university application to Aston had to go through. I had no choice but to get into Aston because it meant that I was up the road. And by God's mercy and blessing, I did get offers from a lot of universities, and I got into Aston without interview, so that was amazing. And I got grades better than they asked for. That was the best thing. Like, there you go, Aston did better than you asked me to do. Interest that was developing that I didn't know about was my natural health interest, and I'd seen lots of people do different things. So, whether it was homeopathy or natural medicine, herbal medicine, and even from a family member, I saw kind of really amazing kind of benefits to health. So I kind of got interested in that and started my own research and started looking into things.
I still don't get it because like you kind of you're kind of like in this secure, you do a 180.
You've said it better than I could have said, definitely. Yeah, that's why I would describe it as foolish in some
No, I
respects.
wouldn't say foolish. I just, I
Yeah,
mean, it takes a lot of. I
that's
guess it does take a lot of guts.
yeah. I guess I think I've always been a bit kind of, I don't know if I should say this, but I've always been a bit rebellious, and I kind of never like wanted to always kind of follow the. And I guess it kind of got to the stage where it was so strong that I had to do something in a good way, obviously, because I hadn't got the responsibility, so to speak, because I'm still kind of like, I don't have the responsibility that normal people my age have. I thought it's either now
What
or
do you mean?
never.
What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
No husband, no kids, no home. Like, so I could kind of like maybe make these expensive mistakes and like have my family say, look, we'll help you. I mean, it wasn't kind of a total blind decision. I had to kind of research the course that I wanted to do. The good thing was that they said at the end of the course you'd practice. So that was kind of goal. Was the idea was to do a course and get into practice. And because it was a weekend intensive course, I could still work in the weekend. So it wasn't a case of me kind of sort of jacking in everything and studying as like a student, as you do in the student days. It was kind of working and studying at the same time. So I was teaching in the week and then I was studying on weekends. And it was extremely intensive. Actually, it's the hardest course I've ever done. Every assignment was critical appraisal. You had to read the data, you had to read the studies, interpret them. Oh my goodness, I couldn't do it again.
What were the challenges? I mean, was it
Um,
with understanding the concepts? Was it a lot of
yeah,
rote
yeah. I
learning,
think
or
yeah, I
what
think it
was
was a
it?
bit of both. I think firstly it was so intensive. I mean, an 8 hour lecture on a Saturday and an 8 hour
Eight
lecture on a
hours of
Sunday.
lectures.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, the slides, we did like 150 slides. Midday, I was ready for bed. The concepts were actually quite deep. You have to understand natural medicine is very different to conventional medicine. It goes back way more years. There's a lot more evidence, there's a lot more lots has been done and trialed and tested. So we know that these principles have existed way beyond the conventional medicine kind of for me to kind of undo my learning and understanding and then redo it, that's what I struggle with because I had to undo what I understood and rethink things from a different perspective. And I'm still doing that now. I find it really tricky sometimes because you'll default to what you've always trained to do. It's like having a more comprehensive understanding and actually accepting that, we don't divide the body into systems. We look at the body as a whole. So if I was working with, say, yourself on something and you came to me with a lung condition, I would look at your gut first. And you're probably wondering, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? So it's kind of understanding that the body is connected in such a comprehensive and intricate way that you can't start to exclude different parts of someone because they're not coming to you with that particular problem. So that's what I found really hard to get to grips with.
Having read your bio, I mean, mashallah, you very experienced, had a fantastic career, tried sort of loads of different parts of the pharmacy space. So clearly very accomplished. And so when you did turn around to mum and your siblings, especially because you're the eldest, and you turn around to them and said, guys, guess what? I'm going to become a nutritional therapist. What were their reactions? How did that go down? What was their reception?
So I couldn't tell everyone, as you can imagine, because I would be frowned upon. And a lot of people actually didn't know until I was well into my course. So it wasn't, my family were very supportive, bless them. I'm really lucky. I'm so fortunate, and God bless them. I don't know how to
Mashallah.
put it with me. I think they're used to my rebellious nature, so they know I do these kinds of things from time to time. So maybe they partly expected it. I think they knew I was always kind of looking for something else. So it wasn't totally kind of expected.
So was
Um,
it another one of those? Oh, there goes Shazia again. There
you
goes
could say
her
that.
rebellious nature. One minute she's getting into fights at school. Next minute she's changing courses.
Yeah,
Now she's on this nutritional vibe. So
yeah,
but joking aside, that they were supportive. Like they didn't
very
kind of
supportive.
make you out to be
Yeah.
the black sheep of the
No,
family or anything like that. They said,
no,
look, you do you type of thing.
no. I think my family's always been very supportive. They're like, look, if you're
Alhamdulillah.
going to do this, we'll help you. You do this, but make sure you put the effort in. So they kind of encourage me and support me with my decisions. Definitely, I think I don't know where I'd be without them, to be honest. I think um, the idea was always to make something of it. It was never to kind of do a course for the sake of studying. It was always to kind of make change for myself and for others as well.
It's quite interesting. You said there that with traditional medicines, you kind of
Mm.
said that it goes back a lot further. A lot of people would counterbalance that and say,
Yeah.
well, is it really based on evidence, or is it more of kind of like stuff that's been passed on from generation to generation, old
Mm.
wives' tales? Make sure you drop a little bit of ginger in your tea. It'll
Mm.
it'll do this for you or do that for you. What would you say to people like that who think that? Why does it have that reputation?
Okay, so yeah, so we're talking about traditional medicine compared to conventional medicine. So I was of that mindset when I was working in as a pharmacist. So I never really understood herbs, never understood vitamins, minerals, never really had a much of a kind of insight into how they benefited the body, apart from the fact that we needed them, and we had aisles in stores where I worked, full of vitamins, but it was never something that was, drew my attention. It was always the drug aspect of the work that I did. And when I'm referring to traditional medicine, I'm talking about things like Chinese medicine and Indian medicine, so Ayurvedic medicine. So these they date back thousands of years. So these principles are not new. Maybe not common to many is that you can actually find papers on, say, for example, turmeric is a big one. Yeah, so if you want to get yourself really immersed in something to begin with, turmeric is a really, really, really good one. Um, so there are papers, hundreds, if not thousands of papers just on turmeric alone. And these are papers that we'd use as pharmacists when we're looking at sort of drug trials as well. They're very similar. So they'll use herbs and spices and natural ingredients in trials in the same way as they will use drugs. Maybe not as big, not as powered, maybe not not the quality of the studies may not be there, because obviously there's only so much you can do sometimes with it. These things are costly as well. But papers are there and they're written, and the evidence is available as to the effects that these nutraceuticals, for example, would have on the body, and the benefits that they can impart on the body. So it's not about finding claims as to this will treat this. It's sometimes just looking at how a nutraceutical, a herb, a spice, a natural compound will benefit the body, what it can do. Because if you look at the mechanisms, when I studied pharmacy, it was all about mechanisms, about how drugs work in the body. You can also use these nutraceuticals and look at them, how they work in the body. They work on similar pathways. When I looked at pathways when I was studying in college and how they benefit the body and what kind of side effects they cause, yes, some of them do cause side effects, and we have to work with our area to make sure that we don't cause harm to our clients when we work with them in clinic, and work alongside their medication, because it's never a case of taking people off medication. I didn't do that as a pharmacist, let alone as a nutritional therapist. So we work with both together to get people the maximum benefit. So there are people who take medication but they're not getting the benefit from the medication. How many diabetics are out there who are not benefiting from their anti-diabetic drugs? It's because they're not eating properly. And it's about getting that balance. It's about looking at what you can do and add to the mixture in terms of enhancing where they are and seeing how their body responds, from a naturopathic perspective and a nutrition perspective. And it's amazing the transition that they can actually have, because you're giving the body the nutrients it needs to start healing itself, to start regenerating itself, and while the drugs then do their benefit. So it's a combination. It's not kind of looking at one pathway on its own. It's about using the benefit of both, because and this is absolutely a must that people need to know. Conventional medicine has its place. Just because we decide to look at the natural medicine pathway doesn't mean that we say to people, don't look at what you've always been, you've been doing and known. It has its place, and it's certainly in acute care. If you had a broken arm, please don't come to me, because I can't fix your broken arm. You're going to have to go to one of those amazing people in the hospital to get your arm fixed. But when it comes to long-term kind of management of, your body, your health, you need to look at what you're eating and what you're doing from a nutritional perspective and what you're doing in terms of your supplements, what you're doing to give the body the nutrients it needs to keep you going. That's kind of where it fits in. So it's never a one-sided coin. It's definitely both.
So I guess it's one of those scenarios where, let's say, if you're suffering from high cholesterol, you can tell I don't have a medical background, right? So the GP prescribes you some statins, let's just say, and says, right, take these, but you're still eating those cheeseburgers and not really working out, not really doing a heck of a lot, but you're taking those statins and thinking, yeah, that should solve the problem. You're saying that's not the case. You need to be looking at diet, supplements, vitamins, minerals, all that kind of stuff. Is that?
It's a comprehensive picture. So that a person is never, we're like a jigsaw puzzle. So you're taking pieces of a person and you're putting this puzzle together. Yeah, so like the drugs is one part of that puzzle. Yeah, so medication is needed and it's indicated in many situations and circumstances. And these medical doctors, they're there to help you. They've studied for years for what to do to help you. So you take their advice, you look at what they're offering you, and that's part of the puzzle. It's only one part though. If you, like you said, if you continue to have, I don't know, fried foods 3 times a day or 5 days a week, you're not addressing that concern that you've now been placed with, that's been highlighted for you. And it's about eating better, so like improving on what you where you are. So it's never a case of going full turkey. No one can do that. They'll just come back with a vengeance. So you're looking at what you're eating, you're looking at your lifestyle, because if you're always stressed out, what's your body doing? Your body's responding to that stress. It's about the oxidation that's going on in our body. So if you're taking drugs and you're eating better, but you're overly stressed, you're not achieving anything. So it's about stress management. It's about getting your sleep. It's about nurturing good relationships. Because, if you're in a bad relationship or you're not in a relationship or whatever, that's stress as well. It's about having that kind of calm in your life. Because if you're not achieving all those other things, but you're continuing to pop your pills, you're not going to get to where you can get from a health perspective. It's a real big picture that you've got to look at. And it's about supporting people individually because everyone is unique. So, okay, you've been given a statin. The person next door could be on a statin as well for the same reason. But it's about what makes you different to that person that I can support with to get you closer to those health goals. So, like I said, food supplements can be really useful. I mean, why do I talk about supplements? Because even if you were to go on an organic diet, the way the foods are produced and the way the soils are used, they're still deficient. Yeah, and by the time, something really nice from abroad gets to you in its organic state, how long has it been since it was harvested? How long has it been on the plane? How long has it sat in storage before it got to the shelf? How long before you picked it up off the supermarket floor? What's happened to nutrients? How much deterioration has already happened in that food substance before it's on your plate? Now, what do you do with it? You probably cook it till it's dead, right? We do, as Asians, think about like the greens that we cook. We cook them until they're like brown. So, it's like all this kind of stuff that we do in our day-to-day life. It means very much oftentimes supplements are necessary. And not for everyone. Obviously, if I was putting supplements into someone's plan and they were on drugs, I would do an interaction check, make sure it's appropriate. And I would always work with the general practitioner. So it's never a kind of an individual working circumstance. It's always a combined effort.
You've obviously seen both and experienced both sides of the coin. So you've done the whole pharmacy thing, and you were a pharmacist, and you're now a nutritional therapist. What is ultimately the difference between the two?
I think there's great benefit and overlap in both. And as I say, I'll use both. So I don't kind of forego what I did learn. It does benefit. I think the main difference is kind of going back to what you see the patient as. So it's the fact that nutrition is more holistic. So we're looking at all the other things around that person. Whereas as a pharmacist, I wouldn't have time to ask you about your stress level so much. What are your relationships like?
Right, but you would. But as a pharmacist, you would ask about, are you exercising or whatever? But you wouldn't go. You wouldn't.
It's the depth.
Look at the other. Right.
It's the depth of how much you actually dig into. So, as my teacher used to say, you dig deeper. and dig deeper. Carry on digging until you get to the answers. And nutritional medicine is kind of focused on what we call functional medicine. So it's getting to the root cause. So we want to ask the question why, and we don't stop asking the question why until we get to the reason why that person is in the state that they are. Why have you got these symptoms? But why? But why? And you just carry on digging until you get to the very kind of heart of the matter, which is what I loved about it, because I'm quite inquisitive. I want to know more. It's the kind of cause compared to maybe symptom approach. That's the main difference. So I like the root cause as opposed to the symptom approach. And I love finding out about people. I like to know everything about them. I just love that deeper connection with somebody, rather than just kind of saying, hi, you know, how are you getting on with your meds, and see you next week or see you next month for your next batch. I don't know. It just kind of fit better with me as a person.
Do you feel that the culture and the times that we live in, there isn't enough of that to kind of, is it very much kind of like a fast food style of, right, this is what's wrong with you, here are the pills, go get on with it? And is that where maybe where you did make where you thought to yourself in 2016, look, this is not really me, I'm more of a person, like I need to find out the nitty gritty? And so maybe that was conflicting with who you are as a person, right? Because you just said that you like to speak to people, you like to take time, you want to find out the bigger picture. And as a pharmacist, like you must be dishing out thousands of prescriptions a day, or at least certainly hundreds. So the two just didn't really work, and this now does.
There was misalignment somewhere for me. I think I wanted that time to take out to speak to people, because I'm a bit of a chatterbox anyways, I like to talk, and I think wanting always to know more and to do more, I think that was kind of always there. And obviously there were limits to how much you could speak to someone and spend that time on someone, because there's a prescription waiting and there's someone looking at their watch and what is she doing. It was always something that I kind of missed, that I wanted more of. I enjoyed, and I think I love the challenge of nutritional therapy as well, because it's actually more complicated than the work I used to do. So you have to go into the research yourself, and you have to look at what the research is showing, and then you write your protocols on that research. So it will never be the same as maybe what my friend is doing as a nutritional therapist. We might have a different viewpoint. We may come up with a different protocol. We may look at imbalances in a different order. So it's never like, it's not prescriptive. It's very fluid. So you look at the mechanism, and then you work out what you're going to do with that client based on that mechanism, but knowing them as a person as well. So like when I onboard clients in my clinic, they have to fill out like tons of forms, which is really cruel. And I've got my second client actually joining, and I thought I'd put her off. She's like, when can we start? And I'm like, gonna have to wait now till after Ramadan, because I'm not seeing you during Ramadan, because I can't gauge the progress. Yeah, so that's kind of the difference. And I think it aligned with me on my personal level. It aligned with me with my faith as well, because I had to rediscover faith. That's a different story. I'm not going to go into that. But because of all these rediscoveries coming at the same time, also, I got to know myself in a different way. And I'm still learning about myself. I kind of still surprise myself sometimes. So
we're talking it's been a solid 6-7 years now, and they always say, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But where are you at now? Do you feel, it hasn't been a week after you made that decision. It's been, a solid period of time. Do you feel that you've made the right decision, or are you still kind of in that limbo phase where you're thinking, I don't know, they were great times of pharmacy times, and where are you at with that?
I have my days, I can honestly say. What am I doing? I think the passion is still there. And sometimes I just need a conversation with somebody, and it's reignited. I know that I shouldn't keep myself to myself for too long. I need to be speaking to people, and I need to be engaging with people. And I guess this opportunity was kind of like a godsend in that respect, because it kind of gets me out of my comfort zone and do something that I normally do. I think the biggest thing has been accountability and like making myself responsible for making change, because what I didn't know at the time was that if you want to make this work, you've got to put the work in. It's not going to just happen overnight. It's going to be something that you're going to have to put blood, sweat, and tears into, like I did for when I did my degree, I guess. And I mean, career-wise, I can't say I was putting blood, sweat, and tears into it as much because it kind of flowed, and the guidance was there, the direction was there. But with this, you're directing it yourself. Now, if you have a day where you're like, I can't get out of bed because I'm just feeling rubbish and I can't deal with today's workload, that's a day lost, and that's a day where opportunity was kind of effectively not tapped into. And I think my biggest kind of challenge is kind of that perseverance and not giving up when I get my dips, which I do get a lot of, to be honest. I mean, I've been qualified now 3 years, and there are days where like, this is like, well, what am I doing? I'm not earning anything. When's my next paycheck coming in? These kinds of things are really hard. And I think, again, given my circumstance, I can still do that. You've got to make it work. You've got to stand out from the crowd. I mean, how many nutritionists are there? I mean, I know CNN,
I don't
which is
know.
where
I
I
don't
studied.
know how many nutritionists are there. I mean,
Yeah, oh
are
my
there
God.
loads, or is it a
It's
big?
this, the numbers are huge. I mean, I was doing some work for somebody on a voluntary basis, and I met two people who were in the nutrition world, and I'm like, how likely is that? That is unlikely.
But
So,
how many nutritionists are there who have had a proper full on career in the pharmacy world as a pharmacist,
well,
as
well,
well
this is,
as the it can't be too many of those,
I hope
surely.
not, is all I'm going to say. I hope not. And I hope that that's kind of like a positive thing, because I think you've got to bring something unique to the table. Because if you're thinking of making it into something and really making a difference, and I'm not talking about the financial side of things so much, I'm talking about actually making a difference to people's lives on a grand scale. You've got to bring something new to the table, and you've got to get out of that comfort zone. And alhamdulillah, I've met a lot of people who've tried to push me out of my comfort zone, which has been amazing. Embracing change. If you can't embrace change, which is what this was, it's not going to work, and you're going to end up going back to what you started with. And I've done that. I've been there, and I finally decided now, after 20 years of being, on the register as a pharmacist, that I wasn't going to go back. It's like, I've got to do this. And coming away from the register actually has given me more drive now to make this work, because I have no choice now. So I know I need to make this work. So whatever it takes.
When you do meet clients and you kind of sit down with them, and I'm assuming you have this lengthy conversation because you want to find out exactly who they are, the ins and outs, the good, the bad, the ugly, all that sort of thing. When you are able to change their lives, what are some of the firstly, how do you change their lives? Can you give us one client that you can, a case
Yeah,
study, obviously without
yeah,
going into details, names,
sure,
and all that sort of thing, and
absolutely.
and what's their sort of reaction when they kind of walk away into this new individual feeling better,
Mm.
and being able to function a lot better than they were before they met you.
Yeah, so I had a lady join me who I knew from about 10 years ago in January. She came to me with lots of inflammatory stuff going on. So she was celiac. I think she was being investigated for rheumatoid arthritis. She had a lung condition, which was progressive, which was kind of the challenge here. But she actually wanted support with her gut health. So she already knew quite a lot about nutrition anyway. I mean, she was eating really well. So it was about, for me, it was about tweaking her diet more than anything else. So I wasn't starting on scratch with this lady. So she was already kind of halfway there, just needing that extra support. She'd had a diagnosis for IBS. So in the nutritional world, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of studies that are indicating that 80% of people who have a diagnosis for IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, actually indicates that they've got a condition called SIBO. So SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So in our small intestine, where we get the absorption of nutrients from our food, we get an overgrowth of bacteria, basically. So they cause havoc in the body in terms of nutritional intake and symptoms. And not only do they get gut symptoms, they get extra gut symptoms as well. So brain fog is a common one. Skin issues and mood disturbances can all relate to disturbances in the gut. So I worked with her on a gut protocol after the intake of the forms and going through all her blood test results and everything that she presented with. We did, I think, 4 weeks together because she went away on holiday after the 4 weeks. And she basically was put onto a gut protocol. I changed her diet very sort of, she actually went onto a very specific diet because of her diagnoses. And she was familiar with this diet, which was really good. It was quite restrictive, but what it meant was that bacterial overgrowth in the gut would come down, and then she'd be able to then start tolerating foods. after that sort of restrictive period. So she went on to supplements, she went on to some lifestyle changes. I looked at her test results, recommended other tests that she could look into potentially later on. But the main thing was the food, because we always do food first. So it's not about getting people onto expensive supplements, making them pay hundreds of pounds for testing that we have access to. It's about looking at their food. And oftentimes it's adding food in rather than taking it out, because it's always better to add something in that's nutritionally dense than to take things out. Right. So, it's like taking candy from a baby. You want to give them something else and then take candy from a baby. It's not going to be something that's received so well. So in her specific circumstance, she had a diet that she could follow, as in like pre-written. But for other patients, say for example, she didn't have the IBS diagnosis, what I would have done was to again put in lots of nutrient-dense foods, herbs, spices, and then look at how I could bulk up the nutrition, because we can always see from a diet diary where people are lacking, because we have an idea, right? Say for example, someone doesn't eat any fish, for example. Oily fish in particular, we know that the omegas might be low. They've got no other source of omegas, which are anti-inflammatory in the body. Then I can see that that's something I'm going to have to look at, whether it's from a food perspective, or then if they say, oh look, I'm not eating fish, I'm not taking flax in my diet, then I might need to supplement, and that might be through fish oil, it might be through vegan sources of omega-3s. So you look at them where they are, you meet them where they are, and bulk up their diet with good foods. And then you work on taking out inflammatory foods. So sugar's a big one. Yeah. So for her, because she was so inflamed, I had to ask her to come off the fruit juices. I had to ask her to stop the odd desserts that she was having. Even though, to be honest, wasn't my major concern. Because an odd dessert here and there is absolutely fine. You might as well enjoy it while you have it, because you don't want to get yourself into a stressful situation because you're enjoying, your favorite cake, a slice of cake or something once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever. So it's very much a balanced approach, but it's like looking at what can you do that's going to make the biggest change in someone's kind of well-being as quickly as possible. So you can't just say, here's a recipe, go away and do this. You've got to kind of talk them through how they do it as well. So it's kind of, it's very in-depth. I mean, I can talk forever. My initial consult is 60 minutes, and I think I went over to 90 with this lady. So there's so much you can say.
So
there's just so much they can do.
So with this individual then, after 4 weeks, clearly whatever regime she was on, whatever program she was on, it seemed to be reaping positive rewards. What was her reaction to you then by the end of it? What did she do? Was she kind of like, oh my gosh, we're not worthy, we're not worthy? What did she kind of say? I mean, that must be really, really nice though, like from your point of view as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the important thing is to get a benchmark, so where patients are at. So like you can use a scoring system for symptoms. So like say for example, they're scoring for pain 9 out of 10, 10 being the worst that they've ever experienced. Once that information is in place, you can use that later on, say a couple of weeks down the line if you want to, or even sooner, depending on how soon you want results to be kind of manifesting. You want to gauge on that scale. So like you ask them, I don't know, a week later, what's your pain like today on that same scale? And if they've come down a bit, 7, 8, great. If they've gone up a bit, you want to look into the right. That's what helps me kind of gauge what I'm going to do next. So for this lady, I put in really high dose anti-inflammatories, because she wasn't taking any medication, so I could do that. So I was like, yes, this is my kind of ideal, supplement person. And I whacked in loads of supplements to get the inflammation down, because her blood test was showing really high inflammatory markers. And I know from experience when I was doing gut testing for a private company that a particular supplement which contains turmeric knocks that value down really fast, because it's designed in that way to like really bring down inflammation quickly. So I put her onto that, and we haven't tested all, I've asked her to give me her bloods as she gets them again, because she's having bloods with the GP. But I know from her symptom score that her inflammation and pain has come down. She's able to do a little bit more. And then that alongside the foods that she was doing, so she was incorporating more oily fish. She got rid of the sugars. She was doing more vegetables, getting the phytonutrients, the vitamins, minerals from her vegetables. So she was doing loads of things combined to bring that pain score down, because that was her biggest thing, the pain that she was suffering and the gut-related symptoms that she wanted to deal with first. it's about gauging someone's progress. And I kind of see my clients once a week. I don't kind of leave them a month and say, okay, let's see what they've got up to, because they probably would have like disappeared. I'm thinking, what's a lunatic asking you to do? So because it's what you're asking people to do is to change their life. And then remember, they've got a family. Most of them have got a family at home. So you're asking them to change their food. What do they do with their family? Do they cook themselves and then do what they've always done for their family? If they're buying, desserts for their kids, does that mean they can never have a dessert again? So it's like very much living that person's life.
There's
and
a lot
from
of
their
a
perspective.
lot of hand holding.
Yeah, a lot of hand holding. Yeah, and goal setting is really amazing. So I mean, I ask my clients, what are your goals? What are you looking to achieve? And then the idea is to make the protocol kind of work around those life goals a little bit at a time. So it's never like, I think, which is why I also get my patients to commit to change, because if you're not going to commit, it's not going to work. And I don't want people paying me for clinics when they're not commit to the work that's going to work with me to do. So it's never like telling people what to do. So we work together. I see my clients as my friend. It's not like I'm not dictating what to do, but you've got to show me that you're committed, because it's not.
Yeah, I suppose without commitment, I mean, what's the point? Really. We are obviously in the blessed month of Ramadan, and as much as it's a great time of year to kind of use the really nice word before, I think you said realign, realignment, to realign yourself as an individual, reflect. Along with that, unfortunately, we have a shed load of samosas thrown in our faces, and pakoras and katlamas and biryanis and salons, and where do I stop?
I'm hungry already.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and those foods are great and they're very tasty, right? But obviously anything in excess, our religion kind of teaches us anything in excess is not really good for us. What's your advice for individuals to kind of, during this time of year?
I'd say, it's about realigning. And remember, Ramadan is not about food. It's a spiritual cleansing. It's a spiritual connection. So, in the Quran, we're told that it's about, fasting was prescribed upon us, as it was prescribed upon those before us, so that we can gain God consciousness. So it's about closeness to Allah. And I don't quote me on this, from the hadith, I think it's, how did the Prophet tell us how to eat? So you have your stomach, third for food, a third for water, and a third for air. Now, what happens to that third for air is the question I have for myself as well. I mean, I'm guilty of it. We have our days, and it's kind of focusing on how we're kind of achieving benefit for our body as well as our spirituality. What we need to kind of step back on. Yeah, we're going to have moments where we're going to want to kind of binge and eat crazy amounts of food and amazingly tasty foods. But then what are the repercussions? So like if you're out for Tarawih later on, you're going to be like standing next to someone burping, belching. And you might not be able to keep your wudu. Yeah. So you've already wrecked your prayer, so you've kind of already lost the focus, and you're not able to listen to that beautiful Quran that Imam is reciting. And then if you're praying at home, you're going to procrastinate and wait till 12 o'clock at night, and then you're like, I'll just pray my Isha, I'm not going to sleep. So you're not really achieving the goal of Ramadan, which is, first of all, to reconnect to God. What is an amana? It's a gift from God. We have one body, and if we don't look after this body, we're going to succumb to disease, and we're going to be gone before we know it. And there's no reason why we can't live into our hundreds, healthy, intact, with our faculties. There's no reason why you can't do that. Obviously, each person is different, our own factors to take into account, but there's no reason why that can't be possible. And I'm a full believer in that. I would say to everyone, including myself, the advice is for myself first, is think moderation. Okay, so you've got samosas, you've got pakoras, you've got all the amazing stuff that's been fried. Partake of that, amazing food, but make it small. Make it a small portion. How do you do that? Buy less, make less. If you get stuff given to you, we've got amazing neighbors that cook amazing food. We give it away. Give it to someone else. Share it with someone, a neighbor, perhaps, maybe a non-Muslim neighbor. Think about other people who want to know what it's about. Because we've got people in the area who are non-Muslim and amazing people. I love them. And extra food goes straight to someone. We always have someone in mind. So have someone in mind. Think, okay, if I'm going to receive, I might get some food today, or I'm going to buy extra. Think of someone else. Think that's really helpful for us. Don't let food go to waste. Give it to someone before.
That's a great tip.
Don't throw food away, because we don't want to be incurring sin. That's the first thing. And the second thing I would say is, if you are going to be engaged, utilizing these types of food, think about healthy ways to produce them. So, and I'm sure your listeners are going to be so familiar with this now, because there've been lots of Ramadan talks. But think of the air fryer. Everyone's got an air fryer now, right? So try not to use oils if you can, because oftentimes there's plenty of oil in the actual samosa itself. And use air fryers. Don't kind of brown them off too much, so you don't want to burn food. Burning food's not good. That's got a separate health issue. And then so use a more appropriate ways of cooking. So if you can, put the deep frying to one side, just for the month, see if it can work. If you need to do it, I know food does not taste the same in the air fryer. I know, I vouch for that. How long it took me to get rid of sunflower oil so that we stop the deep frying, it was a mission. And I don't expect people to do that. Don't do it if it's going to cause problems in your home. Leave it to another day, but start looking at ways that you can incorporate healthier ways of eating. And the air fryer is like a godsend, really. It's not the solution, but it's definitely better, because you're reducing the oils, you're reducing the oil in food, and then you're reducing the oils that are not perhaps the best to use as well. Those are the two tips that I would say. And also, just as a third one, try and get like the good foods in as well. Just trying to sneak in something, I don't know, chop up an avocado or something and add nuts and seeds to it. It tastes good. Think of healthy olive oil. Think about vary your fruit and veg in ways that you can. Smoothies are great. That's how I'm going to be doing my veg intake. I'm going to be doing smoothies, because I know I'm not going to do them. I just can't do vegetables in Ramadan. I don't know what it is. My palate completely changes. So that's how I'll be doing them. So look at smoothie recipes that you can incorporate. Remember to go heavier on vegetables and fruit, because fruit is still sugar, although it's a preferred sugar source than anything else. And then the dates are amazing, but again, restrict them, limit them. So the foods that are beneficial, even they can be problematic in excess. So we go on this middle path, which is what our faith teaches us. And the middle path is the path that's the easiest, and it's the one that you're going to, stay on without falling off.
Final couple of things, Shazia. Obviously, many people might not know, but alhamdulillah, you've joined the Unity FM team, and you've got your own show with us, and that will be kicking off very, very soon. But as a bit of a promo to that, you've given us a couple of tips for Ramadan. But if I was to say, what 3 golden nuggets of advice, generic, of course, bits of advice you would give people to kind of, significantly change their lives, what would it be?
I would say my first one, and I think what makes me so passionate about my work, is to always advise people to go look at things for yourself. Never be afraid of learning. So, how much time do we spend on the internet doing useless things? Hours shopping sometimes, browsing. Why not just read a nutrition article? If you were to Google, say, for example, health benefits of turmeric, there are so many layman articles written for turmeric, just to help people understand what turmeric is. Now, if you're from a South Asian background, like ourselves, that's been sitting in our cupboard for years, and we've not heard about it unless you've studied it, right? All we recognize is it's the spice that you don't want to get on your white kitchen top, right? You don't want to get any stains on. My passion comes from the reading. So I'm just kind of like so absorbed in like wanting to read about the simplest of things. It might be, how can I improve my health through? And these searches have been done, so they're not unique. They're being done. People are actually looking into more about their health through a nutritional perspective. So educate yourself. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I mean it in a way that actually I had to do that. I had to step away, and I had to go back to a blank canvas, and I had to re-educate myself. And I think the result is you can't put a price tag on it. It's so vast. It's so amazing that you'll thank yourself for forever. And it's not just you, it's your family, it's your friends, it's those that you can actually influence as well. So I think education is my number one tip. Don't kind of shy away from it. There will always be something that you understand, And if you don't, reach out to someone who can help explain it to you. There are so many nutritionist groups out there. There are people who are wanting to do things in the community. I know last year when I was out, I was trying to do like workshops and Zoom calls, and I was trying to do talks at charity events. So I did a lot of stuff that was free of charge, because I wanted to engage with the community, because I wanted to make them realize that, hang on, we can't do what we're always doing. We can't live like this. This is not the way to live, because we're just kind of defeating our goal in life, which is what? To worship Allah. That's why we're here. That's our purpose of our life. And everything we do, it can be seen as an act of worship. Set yourself the intention. I'm going to work today so that I can earn for my children, so I can pay for their next their next textbook or something. I know you can make it so little and mundane, but everything we do can be seen as an act of worship and can be rewarded. So why can't we then look at our health and invest in our health and educate ourselves to making positive change for ourselves, so that we're not sitting at our doctor's doorstep every time we've got a niggle and we've got a headache and we've got something minor going on. Doctors are they're so overstressed and overworked. I know from doctors in my family, I see them, they don't have a life because they're so overwhelmed. They're working outside of work because the pressures of work are so high, because there are people who can actually benefit themselves and not have to go to the doctor's office for help, because you know what, they could have done something for themselves. The everyday call, we manage it ourselves at home. Obviously, when you're bad and you're needing medical advice, by all means speak to your doctor, but we can do so much more. That's my first tip. Sorry, it's a bit long. Secondly, I would say start where you're at. Once you've decided that you want to make change, because that's got to come from you. No one can make you change. I can't make someone in my household eat better. I can't do that. I've tried it. Believe me, I wouldn't do it. Don't do it. It's not nice. You want to be talking to the people that you live with. You start where you're at. Don't punish yourself for what you've done or where you've been. And look at ways that you can start making those changes. Even if it's one improvement a week or a month, that's amazing. Start somewhere. Yes. And, if it's fruit and veg that you need to increase, think about the ways you can do it. It's not just fresh fruit and veg. Think about canned. Think about frozen. Think about going to your shopping center, your supermarket rather, when things are on offer. So when you've got the reductions. So I know in the common day and age, people are asking, how do you expect me to eat organic when I can't even pay my bills? Absolutely, I understand that, because I can't afford organic. I'm in that situation, but does that mean we don't make an effort? No, it doesn't, because you can always do something. You might want to cut back on, I don't know, a subscription to something. Yeah, I don't know. There's some, look through your direct debits. I'm sure there's something you can cut out. I'm sure there is. How many of us have got direct debits going out, never looked at them? They've been going out for years. And if you're working 5 days a week, when do you actually get time to sit down and watch Netflix, for example? When? Think about subscriptions that you can actually come up and invest that in your health instead. Say, I'm going to buy blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, this week, and up my antioxidant nutritional content that way. And maybe next week I'll do something else. Vary it. Think about ways that you can do that. And then that's where we come in, because we can educate you about how to do that. So that's the second thing. So start where you're at. And thirdly, I would say, don't get overwhelmed, because even if you start and fail, there's always hope. And I think, because I've been there and I've done it and I'm doing it now, link up with people, speak to people, see what they're going through, what worked for them. So whether, again, that's connecting with the community, connecting with other people who are kind of at the same kind of stage as you, maybe make it a learning activity for yourselves, create a group, I don't know, on WhatsApp or something, and say, if you research something today, say you want to research the effect of sleep on health, why don't you make it a learning community for yourself? That might be your family you want to do it with, because I can look up loads of family members that could benefit in my family, because I see health problems in there, and try and do something that you can do yourselves. And then when you're ready to take it to a higher level, then you can always consult with a nutritionist, you can always consult with a healthcare practitioner. It doesn't have to stop at that level. But I think people have to recognize that there's something that you need to do. This is a responsibility thing. It's an accountability thing for yourself. And we owe it to ourselves, and on an individual level, on a community level, on a social level. Because if we're not going to come together now to change the stats, particularly when it comes to Asian statistics, if you look at the diabetes, I did my interview with Salman. She talks about the increasing incidence of diabetes, and now in children. Really? Children diabetic? If you look at the childhood obesity, if we don't tackle these problems now, I don't know where we're going to be in 5-10 years' time. I just don't want to see that, because it doesn't sit well with me as a professional. It doesn't sit well with me as a sister in the community. I just think we need to try and tackle this now before we get to the stage where the bubble bursts. And I think we're getting there really fast.
Wow, alhamdulillah. Okay, so the three nuggets being research slash education, start where you're at, and don't be overwhelmed. I think we will leave it there, Shazia. It's been amazing. It's been certainly an education. There have been some really, mashallah, like some of the tips and hints to kind of sort one's health out are so straightforward, but I think it helps coming from somebody of authority. Do you know what I mean? To kind of just make you realize and think, hang about, that's so straightforward. Why am I not doing that? So I think it's been incredibly beneficial, and I'm sure our listeners will be, will be forever grateful that you made that switch in 2016. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more from you on Unity FM. Definitely, inshallah.
Thank you. Just
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.